Yeah, welcome to the President's Forum. It's going to be an incredible show. Our host, as always, Maccabi USA President Jeff Bukantz. Thanks, Jeff. And our honored guest for tonight is Jason Lezak. Jason is a four-time Olympian. He's got 8 Olympic medals, 4 of them gold. We all know that he's a Maccabi USA alum, a proud alum. He competed in 2009. He actually skipped the World Aquatics Championships to be there, and he won 4 gold medals at the Maccabiah in 2009. Today, Jason serves as the general manager for the Cali Condors, which is part of the International Swimming League. And we're going to get into all of his history with our proud organization in swimming and learn a whole lot about him. So, Jason, thanks for making time for us tonight. And Jeff, thanks for doing all that you do for our organization. I'll let you take it from here.
Thanks, Shane. Thanks for everything you do. And welcome, Jason. And thanks for joining us. We're really honored. And I want to thank everyone for joining us. It was postponed for a week. So if we can postpone the Olympics, we can postpone the Maccabiah. We can postpone this for a week. And Jason, I want to thank you for the postponement, because by being here tonight, you prevent me from having to watch the Ranger hockey game. So thanks for joining us tonight.
I'm glad I could be of assistance on that.
And so I just want to ask you, Jason, growing up, did you play other sports when you were a kid?
I did. To be honest with you, basketball was my number one love and passion. And, I had the dream to go to the NBA. Being a Southern California kid, I wanted to play on the Lakers, of course, and looked up to Magic Johnson. And I think one of the great parts about basketball and wanting to be like Magic Johnson was learning how to be a team player. And that really, I think, helped me. Even though swimming's such an individual sport, I always looked at it as a team sport, and I excelled on the relays, which was, the highlight of my career. So for me, doing all those team sports growing up, playing baseball, basketball, soccer, and then got into water polo in high school as well, I think, that really kind of changed the way I looked at swimming versus most people who, only looked at it as individual.
That's interesting. It's something I was going to ask you about later when we get to the Olympic life. So how did you wind up that swimming became the sport?
Well, eventually I had to make a choice. I got pretty far in baseball. Actually, I think I kind of gave up on the baseball dream when I was about 10 years old. I had to make a decision if I was going to go to the Junior Olympics for swimming or to the finals of the hit, run, throw competition at Angel Stadium. And, I made it all the way. It was just me versus one other guy. And, I passed that up to go swim at the Junior Olympics. So at that time, I knew that swimming was over baseball. And then I kept playing basketball into high school. And then it just got to the point where it was too hard to do 3 sports. And I knew that I had to come to that decision, and I was doing better in swimming. Unfortunately, I gave up basketball. It was really hard for me, but I knew it was time.
So do you feel that a young athlete should focus on one sport in order to be great?
No, I mean, I think a lot of sports are going that way, and they're pushing kids to focus on one sport. But I think being well-rounded will definitely help your future. Swimming, even though it's different than other sports, as far as in the water versus on land, a lot of the things I did on land and the athletic type of moves were able to help me and learn my body in the pool as well. So, I think development all around is really great, and not making that decision till as long as you can. As much as I would love to have, my 11-year-old and my 9-year-old be the fastest in the country, would be awesome if they wanted it. But also I want to give them that balance. So when they go out there and make that decision, they have, a decision based on a lot of experience and a lot of different things. So a lot of people pick something too young, and then they get tired of it, and then their career is over. There's nothing to fall back on.
That's an amazing perspective, because I see in my sport of fencing, everyone's starting at 8. And the feeling is that if you don't start at 8 and you chime in at 11 or 12, it's too late. The kids that start at 8 are going to be ahead of you. But you're saying that it's overcome by the being more well-rounded. You say that.
Yeah, no, I definitely think they'll be ahead of you at that time. But there's plenty of things that you can learn and pick up on over the years. And is it important being the best in the country or wherever you want to, the best in your region or whatever, when you're 10, 11, 12, 13, 14? Or is it more important getting a scholarship into college or, something like that? So for me, I think the latter is more important than being the best when you're young.
Swimming, as we were talking about before we started, is an exceptionally disciplined sport. To be great in any sport, you have to be disciplined. How do you view the discipline in swimming as different maybe from other sports?
Well, I think the time that swimmers spend is more. So, just based on that, the fact that we have to wake up, there's not a lot of sports that go practice at 5:30, and then not only at 5:30, being from California, you're jumping in a cold pool outside at 5:30 in the morning. So, a lot of people don't want to do that. And not only you're doing that, then you're in school all day and you're coming back from practice, you're studying. So I think the amount of hours we put in makes it one of the most challenging sports. And if you if you can't do it, you don't survive, right? So I think that pays off later in life. Those people that are able to survive through that, and that's on the sheer will and having the goals and the dreams, and even if it's not the Olympics, like I said, if it's just competing in high school or competing in college, whatever it is, you have to set out for it, and you know that you have to do all those hours to make it happen, right? And it's no coincidence that swimmers also in high school and college, if you look up statistics, have some of the highest GPAs as well, because the discipline that they need to do in the water, it also pays off in the classroom.
So how has that discipline carried over into your afterlife after swimming?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's been a transition period over the last 9 years, and I got into doing a lot of swim clinics on my own. First, I had people doing it for me and setting everything up, and then I got into doing it on my own, and really just having the same kind of thought process I had when I was an athlete, to be able to focus and to be able to work hard. And I didn't know a lot of things, and I had to learn them. And it's the same thing when I was training. I was, like, as I always like to say, a student of the game. And I'm the type of person who wanted to learn about what I was doing right or wrong and fix it and get better. And I did the same thing in after swimming as well.
So Jason, in swimming and same in other sports, some people have God-given talent, some people work extra hard, some have mental acuity, whatever. What made you special? What made you stand out? Everyone else did the same amount of laps you did.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. There's a quote from, I believe it was Kevin Durant. I don't know if he was the first one who quoted it or if he copied somebody, but it was, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. So I think you need both, to be honest with you. You can't strictly have an amazing work ethic and be the least talented person in the world and become the best, right? But you also have to take that talent and utilize it. And whatever your talent is, let's say, for me, I'm more talented than somebody else in one aspect, and I have to work harder on those aspects I'm not talented in. And somebody else is going to have to work harder in something as well. So not everyone's going to have the same talents, but you got to utilize those talents. But more importantly, work on the things that you're not as talented as, to be able to excel. And I think for me, that's what I was always doing, always trying to work on those weaknesses and areas that didn't come as easy and natural to me. There's a lot of people that get away with a lot of things because it's easy, and those guys are lucky, right? But if they don't work on the other things, they don't make it. So you see a lot of really talented people that don't make it because they're not willing to go that extra mile and put in the work where it's required, right? So I think there's a way. No matter how much talent you have, you need it. It's always great to have a lot of it, but you still can get a long way without it.
So that brings me to another thing. And for all you swimmers out there, please forgive me for asking this question, but I'm not a swimmer. How does body type come into play? I've heard about Ian Thorpe and his feet were like flippers. And I look at some of the swimmers and they seem like they have long torsos. What's the type of body type that makes a swimmer excel?
Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, there used to be a standard body type of everyone had a skinny waist, broad shoulders, big back, and long arms, tall, like you said, big hands, big feet. And now you look around and you're just like, everybody looks a little different. There's not one type of person that succeeds. You know, there was a guy in, I think it was 2004 and 2008, Kitajima. He was a fairly short guy. I want to say he was 5'7", which is pretty short in the swim world, and he won the gold medal world record in both of his events. And then there's the guy who's 6'10", who you would think would be faster than everybody because he's 6'10", but he wasn't there, right? So I think taking advantage of what you have, but then also, like I said, working on those weaknesses and seeing what areas that you have to make up for. If you look at that relay that we won in 2008, we were all pretty tall, and Garrett Webergel was a few inches shorter than Colin, and but he was still real successful. And you see most sprinters, I would say, are Colin's height, my height, a little taller, but Garrett was able to get away with being a little bit shorter, right? So there's not, like I said, a standard body type. It's what you do with what you have.
How tall are you?
I'm 6'4".
So is that pretty much that's the norm, would you say?
Yeah, I'd say actually even taller now in the sprinters. The sprinters are usually like, I think the final, my last Olympic trials, I think the average height was 6'5" in my heat in the final. So the other thing I'll say is too, is they used to be, like I said, lean, skinny, but now you're getting these more muscular guys. I was probably the first person to swim and be successful at like 215, 220 pounds. And now you'll see quite a few guys over 200 pounds and bigger and stronger, taking advantage of the strength. You still want to be lean, obviously, but it was, people were afraid to be too big, and now you look how big some of these guys are and how strong they are, and they're able to be real successful with it.
So you were like 215. How much was Lenny Krazelberg or
Lenny was like 195, 200, I believe. But he was like really broad, really strong, really lean for his, probably no body fat, right? So, yeah, and Lenny's a few inches shorter. I want to say Lenny's 6'1".
Oh, really? And what about Michael Phelps? How much did he weigh?
He was around one at the end of his career when he was his biggest. I think he was around 190, 195. But he was even smaller when he first started in his first Olympics, and then in 2004 maybe in the 180s, and he kind of got a little stronger, a little bigger along the way.
Interesting. All right, so you mentioned Kevin Durant had something that stuck with you. Tell us about some of your sports icons when you were growing up.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was Magic Johnson, like I mentioned, in basketball. Anybody on the Lakers, but he was the leader. He was the captain. He was the one that made it all go. And then in swimming, Matt Biondi, he was the guy who was trying to break Mark Spitz's record. And I wasn't alive when Mark Spitz did his thing. Obviously, I looked up to him in a way that, wow, he's the greatest swimmer of all time. But I wanted to see somebody do it now and here. So that was Matt Biondi, and he wound up winning 5 golds, a silver, and a bronze, and didn't quite tie the 7 golds from Spitz, but it was still an amazing accomplishment. And one day when I was able to swim faster than Matt Biondi, it was a pretty special feeling for me to go faster than my childhood idol.
Wow, that's awesome. So tell us a little bit about your early Jewish life growing up.
Yeah, I mean, when I was young, parents put me in religious school. Learned everything I needed to know there to get my bar mitzvah, and had that at 13, like most of the kids in my class, and wind up keep on. I was in a Reform temple, and we'd go every Saturday, and it was just on the high holy days, and as I got into college, I kind of lost that a little bit because things were busy, and then I wound up just I'd go twice a year. I'd come home and go with my family and go back to college. Luckily, it was driving distance, so I could just drive down from Santa Barbara to Irvine in a couple hours and be able to spend time with them and do that, which was great. And then it was kind of one of those things where even after college, I lost sight of that as far as going to the synagogue again. And it came to once I started doing Maccabi again, and then I really started thinking about it more and reconnected with it back in 2009.
So that's interesting. So here's the big question. Did you run into any anti-Semitism along the way, whether in college or in the sports world?
Yeah, I mean, all through my childhood, but it really wasn't something that was directed at me. It was just things that I saw, basically, along the way. People make comments, not knowing that you're Jewish, and you just hear that kind of thing all the time. And I never saw anything horrendous or anything like that. It was most just like poking fun at Jewish people, and it was a pretty constant thing throughout my childhood. I'd see it, and even in college. And then as I got older and got more bold, I'd be like, "Hey, man, I'm Jewish," and everybody's quiet, right? And but yeah, like I said, it wasn't anything that actions were taken. It was just one of those things where people thought it's funny to make fun of Jewish people.
Yep, we've all been there. So how old were you when you realized that you were a top tier elite athlete?
Well, I was pretty successful in swimming when I was young, but then I went through a dry period of several years where I wasn't improving and everybody was getting faster than me. So, having that dream as a kid, but not having any kind of clue that it was a chance at reality until my middle of college. And I had a big breakthrough my junior year where I became one of the fastest college swimmers in the country, and then became one of the fastest overall in the country the following year. And I knew the time that I did 2 years in 1998, which was 2 years after the last Olympic trials, would have qualified me. At that point, I knew that it was serious and I had a real shot. And I had to continue that dream, even though I was done with college swimming. At that point, most people would retire, but there was no way that I was going to give up on that dream. And even if it meant moving back home and living with my parents, which I did, I had to go for it.
Well, you talk about this breakthrough. What caused the breakthrough?
I think more than anything, it was mental. Being able to understand what I needed and do it. There was always that in the back of the head, hey, I want to be an Olympian. I want to be the best, but not always willing to do what it takes to be the best. And like I said, having some talent, I could do okay with just that talent, but I wasn't able to take it to the next level with just talent. So I had to learn that, hey, sometimes when my coaches are asking me to do something and I might not agree with it or I don't believe in it, I have to do it, because if I just go through the motions, I'm not going anywhere. And that was the real turning point. And actually, I got kicked off my college team my junior year for not doing the work and not doing what I needed to do. So being able to come back on that team, writing a contract of all the things that I was going to do differently and really following that contract really was a big breakthrough for me. And that was a huge drop in my career as far as time goes, and then getting me into the position I needed to be in to have that mindset of this dream could come true.
Well, that's a very interesting one. So you got kicked off in your junior year. Tell me about what it was like getting recruited for UC Santa Barbara.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I got recruited to a lot of places I didn't want to go. And I'm a California kid. I love warm weather, and I wanted to go to one of the big, Pac-10 schools back then. And at that time, UCLA just dropped their men's team, and I was devastated. That was, my dad was a big UCLA fan, so we used to watch, college basketball, and they're real successful, and it was fun to watch. And thought maybe one day I'll go to UCLA. So that wasn't going to happen if I wanted to continue swimming. And Santa Barbara wasn't really necessarily known for sports, and it wasn't a great swim school, but it was a great school, great academics, great location, and they had a good college team. They won the Big West Conference every year. So just because they weren't as good as the Stanfords, the Cals, the UCLAs, the USCs, they were a good school. And I thought, I could be successful there. I could get a good education there, and I could probably have fun and meet a lot of people. So I thought it was a good fit for me, and it was a 2-hour drive from home as well. So that was a good decision. I'm not a mama's boy, but I like to be at home and I like to be close.
So when did you turn pro?
As soon as I graduated, actually I didn't graduate yet. I didn't finish my degree, but I finished college swimming in 1998. I still had some school left, and which a lot of swimmers do because the schedule's so hard. We take a little less classes sometimes to be able to get through those tough hours. But so when I finished, I had the opportunity to get a sponsorship after winning my first national title, and of course I was going to take it. It was just a couple $1,000s, but for me, it was a couple $1,000 was great, and I was a professional, and I was excited, and that was able to, eventually help me to get out of my mom's house one of those days.
Okay, so let's get to the exciting stuff that comes after you turn pro, which includes your Olympic experiences. Most people would die, including myself, to make one Olympic team. You made 4. What does it mean to you to have represented the United States so many times?
Yeah, I mean, it was a tremendous honor. Like I said, dreaming of as a kid, not only did I just want to represent my country, I wanted to be on that podium and hear the national anthem. And my first Olympics, I didn't get a chance to do that. But the honor of knowing how many people back home are watching you and cheering for you, it's really something that's hard to explain until you're actually in that moment. You don't look at it until really when I marched out my first time. I was walking out and I saw the stands, they're going crazy and they're all cheering for Australia because we're in Australia. But then I started thinking about, these are all Australians, they're all cheering. So then I started thinking about how many people at home are watching this and cheering. And I started getting really nervous and the butterflies went in there. And to be real, I was really lucky I didn't have to swim first on that relay because I was not ready. Just way too nervous. My first time, I was, young in the swimming world as far as with experience. So I didn't know how to, get rid of that right away. And, I had a couple minutes of the meet happening, the guys going, and next thing you know, I was ready to go.
Was there any aspect in your first Olympics of I'm happy to be there, I made it, as opposed to I'm here to do a job?
No, I was there to win that gold medal. Like I said, that was a dream. And we were supposed to win that relay. The USA had never lost that relay in Olympic history. And then to lose by 1/10 of a second to the Australians was pretty devastating. I didn't feel like we had lost the relay. I felt like we let our country behind, or we let our country down. Like I told you, when I walked out there, I started thinking about how many people were watching us and, expecting us to win this medal. And the fact that we didn't do it was pretty devastating.
That's a tough one. So I have a quick question. We're going to talk about Maccabiah later, but how do you compare marching into your first Olympic opening ceremony to marching into the Maccabiah opening ceremony?
Well, I can tell you it was a lot different because I never did the first one. Unfortunately, because swimming was always the day after opening ceremonies, they never gave us the chance to do it because what happens is it's not what you guys see on TV, and what you see on TV is great, and that's like a couple hours maybe, but they actually take us at about 12 in the afternoon, and they bring you somewhere, you sit around, and then you go to another area, you stand around, and then you march out, and then you stand around longer, and you get home at like 2 in the morning. Turns out to be a 14-hour experience, and anybody who's competing the next day, that'd be just silly to do it, right? So unfortunately, a lot of the swimmers do not go to the opening ceremonies, and I never got that. But like you say, look at this picture right here. I did get a chance here, and it was really cool. I know there was a lot of people in the stands watching, but it was another one of those things where I started thinking about, everybody in Israel now is watching this, and everybody, back home that has the channel is watching this, right? So I knew it was an honor, and I was really proud, and I was probably more nervous to do this than I was to compete at the Olympics.
Well, that's awesome. So how old were you when you made your first Olympic team in 2000?
I was 24.
And so what is the optimum age range for a sprinter?
Well, back then they thought it was 20, 21, 22, right? I'm not saying I'm the only one, but I kind of broke through the barriers, and I, made my third Olympics at 32, and that's when I swam my best, right? So I think I showed a lot of people that you can continue to get better into your 30s, and now you're seeing a lot of people doing really well. There was a guy this last year, he's a world record holder in the 50 butterfly, and he's 41 years old and just nearly broke his world record, right? So Dara Torres was 41 at the Olympics. I know the male and female can be different in some aspects as far as their bodies and training and things like that, but you're seeing, older people be really successful. It's harder to swim longer events, I think, as you get older. The amount of training that you need is going to be different, but being able to stay strong, stay in great shape, and be able to swim shorter races, I think can be done for a long time.
So we know that you had a lot of highlights at the Olympics, and we'll talk about the relay race. We'll come to that, but tell me about some of the other highlights in your 4 Olympics.
Well, I think at the same Olympics, the relay you're talking about in 2008, my individual medal to me was just as important, and it means so much to me. I made a huge mistake 4 years earlier. I was ranked #1 in the world, and I had a lot of races to manage at those Olympics. So I took the preliminaries easy, trying to save my energy. And as I did that, I got 21st place, 1/10 of a second from making it back to the semifinals. And the guy won the gold medal in the same time I did at the Olympic trials just a month earlier. So for me, that was a lost opportunity, and that was a medal that I should have had. And to come back 4 years later at 32 years old, when people didn't think I could do it and nobody was really believing in me, and then coming back after that relay being exhausted, my body wasn't recovering, and I felt terrible, but I was still able to sneak my way in there to an individual medal. So for me, that was a huge point in my Olympic career as well.
Were some of the younger swimmers jealous or resentful that you were still able to do it at your age?
I don't know about jealousy. I think there was a lot of talk, at least in the U.S., about I shouldn't retire and it's time for me to move on and give the younger swimmers a chance. And the way I saw that was, hey, if they want to make the Olympic team, come beat me. I'm just one of the guys trying to make it like they are. There's no reason I should give up just because of age. If the younger swimmers want a chance, look up to me and beat me.
That's a good. I wasn't sure when I asked that question if it was a good question or not, but that answer says it was a good question because it existed, the problem. So we're going to come back to the relay race in a bit. I want to go on to your Maccabi experience. So you competed in 2009. tell us a little bit, other than lighting the torch, about your Maccabi experience.
Yeah, I mean, it was unreal. Skipping the medals, we'll go to the other part first. I mean, I had a chance to, meet the mayor of Jerusalem, and then, then go on and meet even higher ups, and, I was inducted into the International Jewish Sports Hall of Fame. I toured Israel and did things that I learned as a kid in Hebrew school that I always wondered what it would be like, and I finally got a chance to do it. So I think that was like the one side of it right there. And then the other side of it was the competition and being able to go out there and represent my country again at a major international event. And this time it was different, with only Jewish athletes, right? So for me, it was funny because I always saw myself as an athlete, obviously, and I always knew I was Jewish, but not until, this time that I really connected to and realized I was a Jewish athlete. And I think that's something special about these games. And, I wanted to do everybody proud back home watching, and all my teammates that were there too. So wound up winning the 4 gold medals at these games, and that was exciting for me as well. So it was the whole package. It was about the swimming experience and then the outside experience.
That's awesome. We've had a lot of athletes. Some are very religious their whole lives. Some of them, after the bar mitzvah, that's it for the religion for a while. And then when they come back to Israel for the Maccabiah, it reignites their passion for the religion and the heritage. It sounds like that.
Oh, who's that? Who's that girl over there on the left? I think I see somebody. All right. But also, I did have my second bar mitzvah over there, which was cool. We all had that chance to get up there on stage and have that. That was really fun.
Awesome. Now, also, you came back in 2017 for a very special relay exhibition. Can you share how this event came to be and what it felt like to be part of this experience? And tell us who your teammates were.
Yeah, so you see over there, Lenny, he's definitely a lot shorter than me, as we talked about, right? But he's got the big, broad shoulders, strong guy. We were, so it was myself and Lenny, as you see on the left, and Anthony Irvin, who was actually competing at these games. He was an Olympian, and he wound up winning the gold medal in 2016. The 3 of us got together with Alex Buvaknik. Is he in any of these pictures? No. But so Alex put that together, and we wound up racing 4 Olympians from Israel. And both of the teams had 1 current swimmer, and the rest were retired, right? So we wound up winning this race. Lenny, who had been training a little bit with the Masters, he wound up, I know it didn't count, it wasn't official, but he let off in a new Masters world record on the 50 backstroke, which was cool. He didn't even know how fast he could go. And obviously having Anthony swimming lights out was still in great shape. And then I just had to hold off Yoav Brock, who I swam against many times in my career as well. And we won that race. That was fun.
That's awesome. So after Olympics, after Maccabiah, there's been a new life for you. Tell us about how you got involved with the International Swimming League.
Yeah, this was something a couple years ago that popped up. I mean, never as a kid did I know anything and think that there would ever be professional swimming in a league like the NBA or NFL or NHL, anything like that. And it would have been amazing if they had that, an opportunity for me, because it's right up my alley. I love the race. That's who I am. I'm a racer. Obviously, you need to train to race fast, but I would go to more races than most people because I thought it was more beneficial and it was great training as well. So when this opportunity came up, they were looking for another general manager. My name came up. They asked me, and I was pleased. I was so happy to do this. And now I get to work with the best athletes in the world and be able to, give them that opportunity to extend their careers and do something they love and get paid to do what they love. It was a tough time. And, part of the reason why I never went to Maccabi in 2001 or 2005 was I had to pass up the world championships to do it, as you mentioned earlier. And that was the only way we made money. If we didn't go to the world championships, we weren't on the funding from USA Swimming, and we weren't able to make any medal money at the world championships. So, that was hard for me. I wanted to go, but there was no way that I could do it and actually, keep swimming and support myself. Right. So I had to go try to make the money when I could.
That's interesting. In 2001, Lenny Kraselberg made a decision to come to Israel, if you remember, and came for the whole Israel Connect and missed out on the World Championships. And he had just won, I believe, 4 gold medals the year before, right? So
yeah.
Every Maccabiah, we have some parents say why their child doesn't have to go to Israel Connect. My Tatala is the greatest, he's this and that, whatever, all the excuses. We should give out Maccabiah medals to the parents for the excuses why their kids don't go. So the way we shut them down, we say we have the Lenny Krazelberg rule. If Lenny Krazelberg with his 4 gold medals had to come to Israel Connect, you have to come too. So yeah, it must have been a very, very tough decision. So what are some of your goals as general manager of the Cali Condors?
Well, I mean, I achieved my goal this year. The second year, we won the championship, which was amazing. So first year was a learning experience. We were close, but we weren't quite there. We were missing out on a couple things, and I was able to restructure and bring in a lot of new people and get everyone to buy into the team concept. And I think that's what I talked about growing up and playing basketball and being a team guy. And when people are buying into that, they want to not only do it for themselves, but they want to do it for their teammates, and it makes everybody even stronger. And it really made a difference. I mean, we had people that were swimming faster than they ever expected, just because when you're watching a guy break a world record in the heat before you, how much does that pump you up to get up there and say, oh man, now I have to step up for my team. Look what this guy just did, right? So I think it's pretty amazing to get people together like we did and win. As far as future goes, I want to keep being successful. And as far as the job, I mean, there's a lot of learning to do. This is something new for me, and it's new for everybody. So I'm going to continue to learn. I'm going to continue like I did in swimming, learn, make changes and adapt and figure out new ways to be better.
So what do you think the future is of the ISL going forward? Do you think it's got a big future?
I hope it does, for the sake of the athletes. The one big hurdle right now is finding money. We got to get sponsors. We got to get people watching it, and there's got to be revenue. We can't have somebody supporting it forever, right? So we need to be able to get out there and get those sponsorship dollars and things to be able to keep this league going. But as far as how exciting it is, I mean, I think it's if people watch it, they will see it's not just another swim meet. I've been to a million swim meets in my life, and as I can say now, being a parent watching the kids swim meets, sometimes they can be long and they can be boring, and this is exciting. It's a show. It's you don't even have to love swimming to be able to watch this and be able to say that's a great 2-hour show. So for me, just being able to get people to see it and appreciate it, you're going to have new swimming fans that were never fans before, or Olympic fans that turned into swim fans.
So please forgive me, I'm not familiar. What's the season? What's the time frame of your season?
So unfortunately with COVID, we don't have anything, perfectly structured yet, but it's in the fall, and last year was supposed to be fall all the way through into the spring, and it was gonna be a big, long 6-month type season, and we did a bubble. So it was 6 weeks in Budapest, and that was it. And because of COVID, again, we're still gonna try the bubble scenario for season 3. We're gonna go right after the Olympics and do a couple different bubbles, and maybe one in the US, one in Europe, and then a final towards Christmas time. So it's going to be in the fall again, but eventually we want to have it a long season, kind of like an NBA or MLB, where they're competing. There's something on TV every weekend that you can watch. Really, it's create longevity for the sport.
So no TV in the United States yet?
Yeah, so we actually had a deal with CBS Sports in year 1, right? So, or year 2, I should say. So our first match last season was on over-the-air CBS, so anybody could have seen it, and then the rest were on CBS Sports, which was great. I mean, we had a lot of good TV coverage. It's just as trying to get more and more people to watch.
Awesome. So have you been involved at all with USA Swimming since the 2012 Olympics?
Yeah, I've actually been a USA Swimming ambassador for the foundation for several years, right? So I'm able to go over, do different things, and with the causes that they're trying to do is, number 1 is the drowning prevention, and number 2 is supporting the athletes on the national team, right? So I have a lot of experience in both, and once I had kids, I saw how important the drowning side of it was, and then obviously being able to get direct athlete support as an athlete paid off for me to continue swimming till 36 and gave me that opportunity. So it's been fun for me to do that, and I've been to the last couple Olympic trials, and I was supposed to go in last year, and I'm hopefully going to go again. But to support the younger swimmers, it's a lot of fun.
That's really awesome. So now in your post superstar life as a regular person, what sports do you play?
Well, I would. My body is so messed up. Unfortunately, I don't do a lot. I play with my kids, and I'll go outside and do some things. Last time like I said, I love basketball. Last time I went and played basketball with a friend of mine, I mean, my knees, my back, you name it, I was a wreck, right? So, just having a good time with the kids right now is what I try to do. I play a little half court outside with my little one, and there's not a whole lot of running or jumping going on, but it's fun.
And tell us about some of your sports injuries along the way.
Well, I mean, I have 2 torn labrums that I never fixed. As you talked about Lenny actually repaired his labrum tear 3 times. I believe he had to do the same tear. So, I knew that if I did that, there was a good chance that I might not make it again and I might not continue to swim. So I never did it. And I just pushed through it my whole career and figured out what I needed to do to keep it stable and be able to keep swimming. And I had a torn meniscus in my knee. So in 2011, I had surgery at the end of the year. And 6 months later, it came back and made the Olympics at 36. So I was able to overcome that. And unfortunately, I just tore my my pec muscle with my good buddy Lenny in Budapest. We were doing some weights over there, and I tore my pec. But I'm not an athlete anymore, so it doesn't matter.
Once an athlete, always an athlete. That's what they say as an Olympian, right?
That's true. That's why I tore my pec. I was probably pushing myself harder than I should have. But there's always that competitive side of me.
That's awesome. So I think now is a really good time. I'd like to get into the Beijing, the 2008 relay race. When we look at sports in our lives, in events that you say, I can't believe this happened, this is unbelievable, it will stand forever. This certainly is one of them. And I think what I'd like to do is play it. It's only a few minutes, it's worth it. And I want everyone to get the full flavor of this race. So it's about 4 or 5 minutes, and let's sit back and enjoy it. And then we'll hear from Jason afterwards.
The A team out there, led by Michael Phelps, who is going for gold medal #2 at these games. The Americans have to win gold in here if Phelps is to keep his hopes alive of surpassing Mark Spitz in the greatest Olympics ever. And Spitz won 7 gold medals. And there is the French team there. They are the favorites, and they have been doing some talking. Alain Bernard, their world record holder in the 100 free, earlier told a newspaper, well, what about the Americans? We're going to smash them. That's what we came here for. That article has been looked at by the Americans for extra inspiration, Rowdy, but it's going to take a lot, realistically, for the United States to outtouch France. Phelps going first. What is it going to take down the stretch of this race for the Americans to have a chance in the end with France?
The problem is Bousquet for France was 46.6 in the prelims, and then you've got Bernard, the former world record holder now. They've got to get out there way ahead. I think the winning relay, first of all, it's going to take a world record to win. They could break the world record by 3 or 4 seconds. That's how good all these teams are.
Into the pool for the United States goes Garrett Weber-Gell in his first Olympic swim.
Look at the world record line.
Way ahead of it is a number of swimmers. Garrett Weber-Gell has the lead for the United States. U.S. has the slight lead in the third leg of this 4-man event. Fastest relay split in history in the prelims for Bousquet. He swam at Auburn. And then you've got Cullen Jones, who swam on the prelim relay and earned his spot in this final. But France has taken the lead up there in lane 5 over the United States.
Cullen Jones, probably the slowest leg of the 4. He earned that spot to be on the relay in the prelims.
Alain Bernard awaits as the anchor guy, and Jason Lezak is going to have to make up some ground on Alain Bernard, who stands 6'5" and can absolutely fly.
I just don't think they can do it, Dan. I mean, Jason Lezak has been there how many times in his career has he anchored this free relay and medley relay? But I just don't think he can do it. He's trying to ride that wave as much as possible.
Bernard is pulling away from him. The United States trying to hang on a second. They should get the silver medal. But Lezak is closing a little bit. Can the veteran chase him down and pull off a shocker here? Here comes Lezak! Unbelievable at the end! He's done it!
Wow, I got goosebumps. I'm sure everyone else does too. And I'm sure you do too, Jason. But I want to ask you, the man at the last lap was Alain Bernard. When he was asked about the race beforehand, he was quoted as saying, "The Americans, we're going to smash them. That's what we came here for." Did that inspire you and your teammates?
I mean, I know it inspired my teammates. For me, I wouldn't really care what he had to say. I was inspired and I was motivated from our history, and that was losing at the previous two Olympics after we had never lost that race before. So this was my third Olympics, and I wanted to help bring that gold back for USA no matter what. So it didn't matter to me what he had to say.
So Jason, when you go in the water, you do this over and over, repetitive. Are you thinking about the next breath, the next stroke, or are you thinking about the enormity of what's going on here?
Well, I mean, with with the fans going crazy and then my teammates behind me yelling at me, I was just pumped up, and all I could think about was having the best relay start of my life, which means trying to get my feet off those blocks as soon as that Cullen's hand touched that wall. And like I said, with so much adrenaline going on, I thought that I actually left early and disqualified my team. So I learned through the course of my career that when something negative would get in my head, I'd have to talk it over positive. So as I jumped in there and I started thinking about other things, forgetting about the relay, that's when I did my race. And I had a lot of experience in the past with that kind of thing happening, but not obviously at that level.
So when this is going on, do you know where he is and where you are and how close you are? Do you have any idea what's going on here?
So the first lap, he's on my left-hand side and I breathe to my right. And not once did I sneak a peek to see where he was, because I knew that moving my head like that would slow me down. So really, I didn't see him until I flipped and pushed off the wall at the halfway point.
So when you make a superhuman effort like that, are you in what the athletes call the zone? I mean, you were in an area that you'd never been before. It was the fastest split ever.
Yeah, I would say I was in the zone. But what's funny is normally when you're in the zone, or at least in my experience, is you swim something, amazing. You get out and you're like, what just happened? And for some reason in this scenario, I remembered everything. I think a lot of it had to do with immediately people were asking me so many questions that I was either making stuff up or I actually remembered it. But I'm pretty sure I remembered. And on that second lap coming back, I could see myself inching up little by little, and right about his hip where I started this race, and I felt this extra surge of adrenaline like I'd never felt before. And that really enabled me to keep my speed all the way to the wall. And as you saw, Bernard crumbled to pieces.
And that's what I wanted to say. It's 13 years, so the statute of limitations are up. Do you think he felt the pressure a little bit?
Well, there was definitely pressure. I mean, being the favorites and being the anchor guy, you're always going to have pressure. I think being anchor, no matter whether you're supposed to win or you're supposed to lose, when your hand touches the wall, that's the finish for your team, right? So for me, I'm okay with the pressure. I like the pressure. I like to be the guy that's going to touch the wall, and the outcome is going to be with the team, right? So I was more concerned about doing everything I could to help my teammates, not to win a gold medal for me.
Wow, that's unbelievable. So you touched on this earlier, but I'd like to go a little deeper into it. The feeling that you have as an individual when you succeed versus the feeling you have when—
If you want to, you can watch the basketball game and we can turn on the sound. I can go upstairs and finish watching this.
I don't want to watch the basketball game. Jason, tell us a little bit about, I've been in your shoes and I know what it feels like. It's such a great feeling when you succeed, but it's a sort of really cool feeling when you're there with your buddies and your team. Tell us the difference for you.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like I said, it's that unselfishness of wanting to do well for everybody. And throughout my career, I would say If you take away my relay start, because you get an advantage on a relay start, so you're going to be faster. But if you take away the start on the relay, and you take away the individual start, on average, I'm 2 or 3 tenths faster on a relay than I am in an individual event. And that just comes from the sheer wanting it for the others, like I said before. And when you have that, you add that up with 4 people, and that's a second. And unfortunately, I don't think we ever had that until 2008 on that freestyle relay, where everybody came together like that, and you start adding those tenths up, and it makes a big difference, right? So there's nothing like sharing it with others. You know, unless you play team sports, you don't know what it's about. If you come into swimming thinking it's an individual sport, there's been times like that. I would have to even say Michael Phelps, early on in his career, he never swam faster on the relays than he did on the individual races. He didn't understand yet, because he didn't go to college and he didn't grow up playing all these team sports. And then once it got to his experience and his understanding, then he started swimming faster. And you look, he broke my American record leading off that relay. You know, I don't think he was thinking, I want to break an American record, but he was going as fast as he could up and beyond to help his team win that gold medal.
So an awful lot was made about Michael Phelps getting yet another gold medal. Did he ever thank you or offer to pay for your first child's college education? How did he thank you for this?
There was no thank you necessary. I mean, like I said, we all did it for each other. It was 4 guys trying to support 3 others, plus the whole nation behind them, watching that and cheering for them. So for me, it wasn't about any kind of thank you. I think we all appreciated each other. We all respected each other. We all did it for each other. You know, that would have been, I'd love for him to reach out and pay for the kids' college. That'd be great, but that's not expected. Come on.
Well, you could suggest it, I think.
Yeah. Next time I see him, I'll say, hey, somebody told me you should be paying for the kids' college.
Well,
maybe there's a fund that I don't know about.
So would you say that race was the highlight, or was it your individual medal? Which was the ultimate greatest moment of your career?
I mean, as far as how dramatical that race was, that was special. But you know, equally as special in a different way, I would say, was the 100 freestyle.
That is awesome. So Jason, that's awesome. I'd like to open it up for some questions. Shane, you want to go into the queue and just start asking some questions that are there for Jason?
You got it. So first one, Rick wanted to know, Rick is from Mississippi. Thanks for joining us, Rick. He wants to know, do you have any tips for masters swimmers?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's no different than when you're a kid, right? Most importantly, I think it's about having fun. And when you're older, you still got to have fun if you want to do well. You got to enjoy what you're doing. And when you enjoy what you're doing, you're willing to put in the work to be successful at it. And that's what I saw. That's what I was lacking at one point in my career when I was a kid. I stopped having fun doing what I was doing. And then as soon as I changed that mindset and started appreciating the sport and wanting to be there, and then that's when I was putting in the work again.
So we're going to stay on the theme of masters swimmers. I have Miriam with us, and she's actually the chair of our masters swim team for the next Maccabiah. Miriam, do you want to ask your question to Jason? Or you want me to do it?
No, go ahead.
So she wants to invite you to swim in the Masters in 2022 and also to bring along Dara Torres. What do you think?
We'll see about that. I'm going to be having pec surgery pretty soon. I heard it's a long recovery. We'll see how it goes.
You have like 18 months, plenty of time.
Yeah, I'm sure. When I was in my 20s, I think the recovery would have been a lot quicker, but we'll see.
Seth Goldberg's with us. He's from Arlington Heights, Illinois. He wants to know which of the 4 Olympics games was your favorite and why?
I mean, they're all amazing in different ways. If you want to look at it as far as a success one in the pool, Beijing was obviously my favorite. But my favorite experience, probably the first one, really enjoying the Olympic Games, soaking it all in, doing everything I could in the village and really experiencing the Olympics. And so, like I said, they're all different in different ways.
Noam, who I believe is also planning to join us in Israel in 22, said it's difficult for him to train in a 100-meter pool. He only has access to 50-meter lap pools. Do you have any tips for how to get him prepared?
Well, I have never even swam in a 100-meter pool, so 50-meter pool is great. A lot of us over here in the United States only can have access to 25-yard pools, right? So having access to a 50-meter pool is amazing. You know, you can do no matter what size the pool is, you can train. During the quarantine, a lot of these professional athletes were training in backyard pools and training with tethers where they were going nowhere because the pool's 5 yards, and they just tied it to the fence and just swam in place, right? So I don't think it's the size of the pool that matters. It's what you're doing, and just make do with what you have and figure out ways to be successful in it.
Hey, Shane, before you go to the next question, I know Ron Carner wanted to say something.
Yeah,
Ron,
go for it, Ron.
I lost you there, Jeff.
are you back, Ron?
We hear you.
I lost. Do you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, this is one of the few times I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself.
Okay. Listen, first of all, Jason, I know I've said this many, many times, and you're very well aware of what I'm going to say, but I remember in 1968 at the Olympics in Mexico City, when Bob Beamon broke the long jump record by about 22 inches, which was one of the most amazing individual athletic accomplishments I've ever seen. And I talked for all those years that was the greatest individual athletic achievement I ever saw. I added to that, and I've told you this many times, what you did in that 2008 Olympics was the second thing that I've always categorized as the greatest individual achievement. And I just wanted to tell everybody that I must have told this story dozens and dozens of times, and maybe half of that to you, but I feel so strongly about it. And I think about it often as a person who's been interested in sports and the amount of work and the amount of effort that goes in. So I just want to share that with everybody, how I've always felt about those two individual accomplishments.
Thanks, Ron.
Thanks,
You're
Ron.
very welcome.
All right, Shane, back to the questions. Thanks, Ron.
Debbie, thanks for joining us. Debbie would like to know, what was your mindset heading into the individual 100 free in 2008? Can you tell us a little bit about the experience from prelims to semis to finals?
Okay, so I kind of briefly mentioned it, but my body did not recover after the freestyle relay, and I came back feeling horrible on the preliminaries. And basically, I knew that there was no way that I could make the same mistake I made 4 years ago. So regardless of how I felt, I had to go for it in the preliminaries. And as I went for it in the preliminaries, I got 12th place, and I thought, I made it back, but that was as fast as I can go. How am I going to make the finals? And I had to convince myself that my body felt good and my mind was ready, and I was going to beat everybody. And I barely made it into the finals. And one day later, feeling even worse, I actually envisioned that I was in my home pool all by myself, and I felt absolutely amazing. And that was the biggest lie I've ever told myself, because I felt terrible. I was racing 7 of the fastest swimmers in the world, and there was 1 billion people watching me. So that's kind of sometimes the tricks that you have to play with your mind to convince yourself sometimes. And like I was able to do it when I was swimming as well in the moment, I had to do that before the moment.
Okay. Shane,
And what was it like? What was it like tying Cesar Salo? I see that in there. Cesar should be asked, what was it like tying me? He was the lucky guy to tie me.
Hey, I have a question, Jason. Tell us about your diet when you are like really competing and maybe the day of an event as well.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I read a book, The Zone Diet, back in 1998, and that was the first time I really read anything on nutrition. And luckily, I went and lived with my mom, so she was real precise, and she was measuring foods for me and having the exact perfect balance. And after that, I just stuck to that same type of thing, but not so crazy. Just made sure I ate a good balanced meal, and I ate many times throughout the day to give me the energy I needed and then the recovery I needed afterwards. So I think the most important thing is having balance of good proteins, good fats, good carbohydrates, and having them at the right times before you train and after you train. And then, basically that was what I continued to follow on a pretty good level without being too precise about it.
After a competition, when you're gonna splurge, what would you?
When I splurge, I love my beef ribs and a little apple pie.
Sounds good.
And any other questions for Jason before we wrap it up? So Jason, I want to thank you.
That's a great question, Marshall. I see your questions there. Yes. the Lakers are going to repeat. I know they're not looking too sharp right now, but they're still doing all right. But they'll come through in the playoffs.
Thanks, Jason. So Jason, one of the great athletes of all time, a great Olympian, a great member of our Maccabi USA family, and we thank you for that. And we hope that you stay involved with us going forward. And here's the one last question. Jason, are you planning to coach the Team USA on the Maccabi games?
The time commitment to that is pretty steep, but right now with my role as a GM, I don't think I can pull that off. But I'd love to go back to Israel, and hopefully, I don't know if it's next time or the time after, but I think it'd be great to be involved in that again.
Awesome. And with that, Jason, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks everyone for joining us and joining Jason. And Shane, I'll turn it back over to you.
It's been a fantastic event, everyone. Thanks so much for joining in. Stay tuned. We have more Maccabi USA at Home events coming up next week. We have a special event with Ido Aharoni on Tuesday at 1 p.m. He's an Israeli Goodwill ambassador, and we're going to talk a little bit about football, American football, that is, with the Super Bowl coming up. So stay tuned for your inboxes. And thanks once again to Jeff, and special thanks to Jason. This has been a tremendous session.
Thanks, everybody. Jason, good luck with the healing of the pec also.
All right. Thanks, guys.
So